Yo, yo, peace, peace.
Peace. Sean, what's going on? How
What
you
up?
doing?
What's up, my sister? I'm doing good, man. I'm ready to get it in.
Okay, all right. I know you I was your first guest when we first did our very first interview,
Yes,
and you were the first person who gave me an interview. So we was, we right there at each other's, been helping each other.
yes, we have. Yes, we have. Sure, sure.
Okay, so we're going live today. We're just gonna talk a little bit about energy, and we're gonna talk about the
Yes,
energy reports. I want to thank you, Sean, for
yes,
showing support and getting you an energy report, and getting back to me, letting me know how it was able to help you and to assist you. So we can
yes.
go ahead and get started. Let me see. Okay, so you got any? What specifically you wanna?
Well, let's do it like this, right? I want to do it
Mhm.
first of all. The first time we rocked out is about your book on numerology, right?
Right.
And the same way we did the same thing, we had to dispel some of the rumors and the myths
Hmm.
about numerology and like reading cards and astrology, just any kind of work like this. We got to separate the fact from the fiction, right? So the
Right.
same thing when it comes to the energy report. Tell us lay people, what does that mean when it comes to an energy report? What does that mean?
Okay. All right. Well, that's a good question. Good start. And I like the fact that you mentioned the book, The Guide to Inner Peace, the book about numerology, because the way that I had this energy, the way that the structure or the system that I do this energy report on is based in numerology. And it's not so much as looking at your birth date, the way that we do the life path. We are looking at your name, your birth name, because when you're born, spiritually there's a code in your name. Your name isn't by coincidence, even if you are named after someone else. There's a story in the name. And so and what we know when we're dealing with energy, we're talking about how everything vibrates. And when you're talking about numerology and the frequency of numbers, we just translate that over to letters. And with the energy report, what we pretty much do is like, we all as humans all the time, we're always questioning things about our lives. We're, want to make sure we're on the right path, just things of that nature. And this energy report can be of some assistance to you because, we feel like we don't have answers or we don't know if our answers are correct. So this can just kind of give you a little bit of kind of like reassurance and some things that you've already felt, some things that you've already experienced, and it just may give you a little bit more perspective. And so we break it up into 6 different parts. And the 6 parts are centered around your spiritual karma, your spiritual and physical karma, your spiritual and physical talents, and your spiritual and physical gifts. And also the soul destiny as well. So that's the science and everything behind it.
So let's do a slight pause on the name part, right?
Hmm.
Because of course we know overall sometimes people don't realize the power of a name. So of course, people just name their child just anything, right?
Hmm. Yeah, yeah.
We all went to high school with some Mercedes and some Benzes and some Lexus and
Right,
some.
right.
Te- I knew like 3 tequilas. Real talk. I knew like
Okay.
three tequilas. Like they don't take that naming thing seriously, right? So
Hmm.
whenever I've been in situations to name my child in my life, I took it very serious. I'm trying to find like breakdowns
The
on names and things.
meanest.
I didn't know about. Yeah, I didn't know about it as deep as this,
Hmm.
but I knew to take it serious because I felt like a person does kind of live to their name, whether you know it or
Right,
not.
right.
So
Absolutely.
I would never just haphazardly name my child just anything. I want you to
Anything.
aim for something, shoot for something. Even going back to the African times, right? Remember whenever they would take on like 11 names, like
Right,
your grandfather, great grandfather, great great, like this is who you are.
right.
It's a trajectory, and I think whenever we lost that part of our culture, you really lose a part of yourself, like for real. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
I agree. I absolutely agree with that. I'm the same way. And I got 4 kids. And with all our
Yeah.
kids, their names all carry some type of meaning. Or, you know, we looked at the qualities of the name, the meanings behind the name. And so I could definitely understand where you coming from with it. But, you know, I will say this, though, because we look at the way that we do come to terms with our names today. You know, sometimes how some people is be like, oh, well, it's this name and this name, these people names put together. But, you know, it's still, honestly, whether we know it or not, I think it's still a very strong cultural connection to the names, even as African Americans, because even if we've lost our connection maybe to Africa, but in a sense, we have developed our own culture here. You know what I'm saying? So when you hear some people say certain now, you know, that's a black name. You know what I mean? So I guess it can kind of go both ways depending on how you know, look at it. But yeah, absolutely. And some people, you know, keep that in mind when they do choose a name because they like, okay, well, you know, take for example, you know, a Michael or some so to speak or something like that. So yeah, absolutely. But most of us don't know as far as the connection to numbers with the names also. So it's just something that, you know, like I said, to just bring back around the forefront as a tool to help to assist people in their breakthroughs and dealing with, you know, the things they may be dealing with.
You know, nothing is coincidence, right?
Right.
About 2 months ago, my business partner, Cliff, here in Louisiana, he was telling me about this system. I think it starts with the letter K. I can't enunciate what it's called, but then I'll get to the main point. You put your name into this system, and it gives you all of these attributes about yourself.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And so I saw his attributes on his name, and the man I know him to be, and it was accurate. I saw my attributes on my name, and I saw somebody else's attributes on their name. It all lined up, right? And he told me, as a business owner, you know how these days you go to a job interview, they're going to pull you up on social media. That's off the top. They're going to pull your page up. They're going to Google you. He said he look at a person's name and put their name into that system because he want to know if your attributes lined up with the line of work that he have for you.
Right.
That's a whole new layer to the onion when he said that. As a business person,
it is.
How do you line up with my mission, our motto, everything for this company? You might not energetically be a fit. I don't care if you went to school. I don't care about your degrees. I don't care about your background. You might not energetically line up with this company. What you think about that?
I totally, absolutely agree with you. That's just the same. You know, some people use astrology in the same means. You know, they may take a person's birthday and they may be like, let me see just how much, you know, we really have in common. And it's not to say that that's an end all be all, but it is, surprisingly enough, it can be a very good system to use to go as a tool, as one tool of many that you could use. But yeah, that is a good thing because you know, because like I said, it's just like what people using astrology. That's like, even as far as if you want to put a handle, you know, what's your name in your company? You know, what's your name in your social media profile? You know, what's the name of your brand? So those things carry an energy, you know what I'm saying? And when we're talking about an energy, we know the law of vibration. Everything, according to that, how it vibrates, that's the frequency. So it's a means, I feel like this, it's a means of assisting you all throughout your life through your name. That's the way me and my husband, that's the way we tackle naming our kids, right? So like you say, you look at certain qualities and meaning in a name, you can look at that in a sense of, okay, these can be qualities attached to the frequency of this name, you know, that can assist in certain situations. So people absolutely do that. And, you know, it's more of a holistic way of going about being an entrepreneur. You know what I'm saying? Everything isn't just cut and dry, left brain, analytic logic. You know, some things have to do with energy, have to do with chemistry. You play sports, you know what I'm saying? You can't just throw everybody good together on the team. They got to have good chemistry. So that's all energy is really talking about.
Sports is a great example of that.
Right.
We've seen in the past 10 years, a group of guys come together and on paper, it look like a no-brainer. Like, man, it's not even fair for everybody else.
Yep.
But then you see it play out, and it just don't.
It's like, oh, it don't
line up. It don't line up.
Yep.
Right. So what I want to do is, I'm gonna be personal, right? So I did, for those that don't know, I did my own energy report with the system about a week ago. I got my results back, and I was blown away by these results. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna be personal, and I'm gonna share some of my report, and we'll talk about it a little bit, right?
Okay.
So, if that's cool with you.
That's cool
It's
with
not
me.
my show; it's your show.
That's absolutely cool with me. I
I
appreciate
don't
you.
want to take over.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
cool with me.
yeah.
And you know, at
So,
the same
um,
time, I'm gonna pull mines up, and
okay,
we kind of do that. Okay, we'll go ahead. Let's
yes, ma'am.
go.
Okay, so I'm gonna go to my spiritual talents first. My spiritual talent, right?
Mm-hmm.
So mine say very positive.
Right.
Mine will really open to the soul. You have a great wealth of information and energy. High spiritual, God-like energies. Your mind is very open to God. So you are physically very intuitive, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's a few of my attributes when it comes to that. So people know me for being very optimistic. People know me for being, I'm always kind of a positive source. In any room I go into, I pride myself on I'm gonna set the tempo in this situation.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna make it happy, vibrant. When I go to work, people always naturally like, "Oh man, show on here tonight. Like it's going down tonight."
Right.
I pride myself on that. So when I saw that in my report, I was very impressed by that. Right? You say have a great wealth of information and energy. Like I just said, along with being positive, I'm known for being up tempo. I'm known
Mm-hmm.
for being I gotta almost see being conscious of this. I gotta almost make myself shrink sometimes because it could be
Mm.
too much for some people.
Okay.
So when I go into some rooms, I gotta be conscious of how much energy I have and the vibration. Right? I
Right.
gotta constantly make myself shrink down depending on what situation that I'm in. For some people, it's overwhelming. For some people, it's too much, and they don't want that first thing in the morning. You don't want that late at night. You don't want
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
on your
Yeah.
bad day. My energy feel like damn, Sean,
Yeah.
like bro. So I gotta be conscious of that, how I carry myself, right? And when it comes to information, as people know here on Instagram, Bookstagram, I'm known for reading a lot. That's why I'm here, and I'm known for giving information as well. So that's a little bit of my spiritual talents, and give us your take on that or yours.
Um. Well, as you said, see, like you have a very big energy, and the way it plays out in your name is sometimes it can come back to get you. You know what I'm saying? So in a sense, and when you say that, but it's because you have a lot of power. Like you got big energy. Like, you know, like you just got big energy, and everybody can't process that. You know, everybody can't really process that. But it's like, um let's see, what was we is it the talents? We was talking about the spiritual talents? Okay, so when we're talking about the spiritual talents, yeah, because your spiritual talents was, because it is based off numbers. Okay, so yeah. So what was your number? 5. Oh, okay, yeah. Open to the soul, very positive. Oh yeah, high spiritual. So because it's a 5 energy, so the way that the report is done, it's connection to the Hebrew letters. You know what I'm saying? So if you're familiar with the Hebrew letters, every letter correlates to a number, right? So that's how we break it out. We'll write your whole name out. We're gonna correlate each
Do they,
number.
do they call that gematria? Is that
Well,
gematria?
gematria
I might be saying it incorrectly.
well, it comes out of it. You can use gematria for that, like when different events, because different things. Like I said, you can take any word. It's a numeric value to it, and you just basically breaking down the numeric value, right?
Yeah.
So when we looking at yours, your spiritual talents have to deal with a number 5. So when we wrote the book, you know, the main thing we wanted to emphasize is numbers are like symbols, right? So a lot of the way that number looks, that symbol looks, kind of correlates to the energy. So you look at a 5 and it's open on both sides, right? So it's like it's an open on both sides. So 5, that energy is very open. So it's an open and it's a pop, but it brings change. But at the same time, it can create tension in that change. So that's why sometimes it can be, you
Yeah.
know, people not want to deal with it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
they can be
I mean,
resistant to that change.
right. And I want to say something real quick, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you always doing movie breakdowns. If y'all don't know, check my sister, her podcast and her platform. She's been doing that for like years before Instagram, movie breakdowns, right? But on superhero movies, the superhero has to know how to harness his powers.
Yep.
In the beginning, Gambit, before the glasses, Gambit just cutting down everything. His eyes just,
Yep.
his laser beams just knocking down buildings. He hurting people until he goes to Professor X to learn how to harness that thing. Superman trying to fly, he just landing all crazy, he crashing.
Right. Yep.
Until you learn to land, where it's like you land soft as a feather almost. So the same thing with this, you have to know how to understand this energy report to know how to harness your powers and your gifts, because the gift can be a curse if you're not mindful of it, right? I'm going to go to something real quick. When it comes to being a black man in America, being police, right? Whenever I get stopped in my car, the minute I get out the car with a cop, I'm definitely trying to shrink myself energetically.
Yeah.
I'm trying to shrink myself because I know, for those that don't know, I'm only like 5'8", 195 pounds. But to this cop, I'm like 6'5", 250.
Right.
So the minute I get out the car, sir, step out the car. I get out the car, they say, sir, get back in the car. They're going to call 6 more cops for just me.
Yep.
So I'm mindful of that. I'm trying to consciously
I got you.
slow down my cadence when I'm talking. Slow down my rhythm. Take the energy off of my tone. I'm trying to do all these things in real time. Keep my hands in a certain kind of way. Don't move too much. I naturally talk like this. That's how I naturally talk. That's showing people on the video. I'm talking like this. I can't do that right now because they're going to take it as something else. So I'm giving you in a matter of 30 seconds what I'm thinking about in like 5 seconds. I got to do all this math. So how do I get home safe to my family? So that's a real-time example of controlling your energy and being mindful of your energy. It can be taken the wrong way.
Yep,
you know
absolutely. And so, like you say, when you look at the movies and the people and they had a power, a lot of times they don't even like their power. They don't see it as an advantage. And we are the people, we're looking at it and we are confused, and it's the same thing in life. Like we see people all the time. They have amazing talents and we look at it like, wow, they can really do that. And they they can like belittle it, like it's disregarded, like, oh well, this and that. It's like, oh well, no, that's actually something, So, and then what you said, like, and I could totally understand as being a black man, unfortunately in America, that's kind of the climate that we in, you know what I'm saying? But with that 5 energy, like your talent, your strength is in your speech. Speech. I remember that from your report. Speech, your voice. You voicing what is a very strong. That's a good source of a lot of your strength. So I'm not surprised at all with the way you do the interviews, the way you do the videos. The inspiration. So I can see it. You know what I'm saying? Even more so, than before. Go ahead.
Let me just co-sign something you just said like 10 seconds ago, right? So I'm 40 years old right now. I probably spent 80% of my life not liking my voice, not liking how I talk, not liking a lot of things about my. So as a kid, I was always shy. People see me now and think like, man, in school you must have been crazy in school. But like, no, when I was in school, I didn't talk that much.
Right.
Because I was always embarrassed by my voice, how I talk. And because of that energy, when you don't harness it as a kid, I'm talking like Busta Rhymes. I'm talking like when I get real mad or excited, that cadence gonna be like. So people will clown you about that whenever you a kid. Like, huh? Like, what you saying? Like, say it again. Why you talking so fast? Like, slow down. Like, all of these things, you don't realize spiritually what it's doing to your subconscious, so it make you not want to talk at all. So for years, even being a public speaker, I still was having trouble in my subconscious about my voice. So it took me a long time to harness it and learn it and be able to use it as an instrument for positive, for good, and do something different with it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. just real quick, I see some people in the comments asking about the energy report. So these energy reports right now, they're only $12.12. So that's the fee that I'm charging to do them. You're gonna get it in like a document, a PDF document. It's anywhere from 4 to 5, maybe 6 pages long, and you can just go to the website. It's cosmic-paradox.com. The link is in my bio if y'all want to look into that a little more. So that's just to give y'all a look, because I see y'all comments. I didn't want y'all to think I wasn't paying attention to the comments there. But yeah, Sean, it was looking at your report, you know, because we've been for years, you know what I'm saying, we've been in contact, assisting each other. And I was looking at, I said, that's probably it's no wonder I'm always finding myself inspired by or getting ideas from some things that we've talked about. You know what I'm saying? Like, we can have a conversation. I'm like, dang, Sean, you know, that is a great idea. And so that's probably a lot that has to do with speaking fast. It's just your mind moving at a speed, and your mouth trying to keep up at the speed of your mind.
Let me tell you, I graduated like 22 years ago, right? So when I was in high school, I was in acting. This is how I learned to harness that particular ability with the right coach, right? Professor X. My acting teacher always says, Sean, it's like your mind is moving faster than your mouth can even keep up with. So you're trying to keep up with your mind is going like so fast. You got to slow your mind down. That's where it was like it was coming out so rapid, right? So it takes getting a spiritual or physical coach to help you harness that energy. That's the power of the energy report. To me, a part of the power is getting the analysis, right? Like going to a car dealership and they put that machine on your car and they say, man, your engine, the check engine light coming on because of this reason, and your tires this, and your transmission doing that. So now I know what to address on my car.
Absolutely.
Right? So with the spiritual, with the energy report, you're telling me, Sean, this, and this. Now I know to be more mindful of certain things. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. I could totally get that. Yes, I could definitely feel that. You know, I got a lot of things with the speech thing too. And, you know, I went through a lot of the same things. I still go through it right now. I'm honest, like, because I struggle with my accent. I remember our first with my accent, you know, and it'd be like, I don't know how people, I'd be like, I don't know how people going to take to my voice or, you know, take to my accent. So for a long time, I talked myself out of doing so many things for years, Sean. And I just think, like, it was just so many things that I could, you know, I just wanted to share, but I didn't have, you know, the confidence to share it vocally, you know, and so I just kind of fell back. And I convinced myself, at the same time, that it was what I wanted to do. You know what I'm saying? So I had to, and sometimes that's the thing, we need a reminder. Sometimes we need a little kick. Sometimes we need just to maybe look at something from a different way, so maybe we can see it differently, you know, because it's like you say, we see things or it be things going on about ourselves and we dislike it or we don't know how to accept it. But in reality, if you push through that thing, there's probably some talent or some latent ability that's waiting for you once you can come over this obstacle here, because that's why that obstacle is placed there. So
right. I'm gonna do another one, right? So my physical goals in my report, to develop endurance and unblock your power and creativity. Primarily, you thrive on large-scale challenges. That is so true. You need to use power to set things up to share. Otherwise, you are like a caged lion. That is a perfect description, right? You may take up a power expressive position, i.e. a university professor. For those that don't know, I have been multiple times a university professor, right? I'm gonna go down further. You need movement, physical activity, right? You need healing for the disempowerment and blockage of power. So let me talk about this.
Yeah, that's a good one.
My whole life, since 3 or 4 years old, I've been in physical activity. First of all, being martial arts, then it transformed into basketball, and then it come to, once again, fighting, boxing, combat sports, right? Whenever I work a lot and I can't go to the gym. I told you this in private. I'm gonna say it
Yeah,
now.
yeah,
When I can't go to the gym for like a week or two, I feel like a caged lion. I feel boxed in, locked in. I get anxious. My temper gets short. My patience gets short. I have a slight attitude with people. I
yeah.
might be a
The
little
irritation.
snappy.
Yeah,
And it's like the minute I go to the gym for a little while and get that energy off, I'm back to showing P that you know.
yep,
But until then, it's like I'm just, and I always tell my wife, I'm like, man, I feel like, see, once again, not knowing the report,
right.
I couldn't really articulate what I felt. But in my mind, it's like I feel caged in. I feel boxed in.
Yeah,
I feel blocked. So
yep.
physical activity has always been a main through line in my life. Like I said, since I was a small kid,
Hmm.
it's always something physical I got to do,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, and I tell people a lot of time, especially really creative people, and I think the issue is we overlook what can be considered creative energy, you know, because so and what happens with a lot of people, so sometimes people think they, you know, deal with depression, or sometimes you just have to move, you know, your blood just has to move that deep, that movement just has to occur, you know. So for somebody like you that has such a strong surge of energy like that, if it can't be used, it's gonna get pent up. You know what I'm saying? So you gotta find a release for that energy, because it's a real powerful, you know, energy. It's a very powerful energy.
Right, right. And you
And,
mentioned like unblocking your power and creativity, and both of us are writers. If y'all didn't know, watching the live, both of us are authors. You know, you could go to her page, find her publications. You can go to my page and find mine. But for like 2 or 3 months, I couldn't write anything.
them
I could
blockages.
not explain why, but I could not write anything. For me, I'm always on Instagram joining the poetry challenges. Like they have different kind of prompts out there. You can find them online. I would
Okay.
normally hop on any given one and just rattle off something quick, like all the time.
Right.
For a 2 or 3 month period, I couldn't get anything to come.
Mm.
Cause normally just seeing a picture or just seeing a word, my mind putting something together. Like but for
Right.
2 or 3 months, I would see a word or a picture, and it was just quiet,
Oh.
nothing. It was a huge block, right?
Right.
So it took me to change some things, you know, with my energy and whatnot. And now the pen been crazy lately. Like I can't stop writing.
Well, see,
Even
it's
laying in bed, even
I'm about
laying
to
in bed,
say,
my mind still putting together words. Like
and see,
it's hard to explain.
sometimes blockages are a part of the journey. See, sometimes we gotta experience a blockage. Those are more like a spiritual blockage, because it's
Mm,
more like, it's almost like giving you material. You know what I mean? It's almost like giving you material. It's like it's something you gotta push through. So it's only gonna push your wisdom that much more, because it's only added to your experience. It's like getting more data. You know what I'm saying? So you acquire more data to related information. You know, so but yeah, and for people, when you get the energy report, the way that it's laid out with everything that's there, it can transpire in, what I'm trying to do is relay the way the energy is projected. So I'm giving you multiple different examples of how that can be playing out in your reality at that current moment, or maybe previously in your life. So that way that you don't miss what it is and what it's trying to, you know what I'm saying, what it's trying to relate to you. So that's for people
right.
who, you know, are interested in getting the energy report, so that way that you know that when you
And
receive it.
for the family, the energy report I'm looking at on my laptop right here. I keep looking like this, my laptop right here, right? Like I said about the whole car diagnostic analogy, it's just like that. Like she lays out the attributes, the 6 attributes, and what that means, and then she break down to you what your attributes mean and what you could possibly do to improve it. So I'm
Right.
going down attribute by attribute. That's what I'm talking about right now as we're doing this conversation, right?
Yeah.
Um, Look at this one. So my physical
Mm-hmm.
talents, right?
Mm-hmm.
You said this. You could be a teacher, a minister, a statistician, an accountant, or a research scientist.
Yep.
Then it says highly intelligent mind, right?
Yep.
Let's break that down a little bit. So for those that don't know, my grandfather is a pastor, right? He's a preacher. My grandfather is 84, 85 years old. He been being a pastor since he was like 10 or 12 years old, that long.
Mm.
So I grew up in a household like that, right?
Right,
But you know
right.
how it is how it is a lot of times in your life. You want to deviate from what your parents are doing. You want to deviate from what everybody else doing.
Right,
You want to have
right.
your own name and your own thing going on,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So let's say like right now, I'm in a public place doing this video.
Right.
A lot of my lives I do, a stranger will walk by in the background and they'll stop and they'll say, "Man, you a pastor? Man, you a preacher?"
Mm.
I'll be like, nah, not saying in a bad way, but I'll be like
Right.
almost like, hell nah.
Right,
Like
right, right, right,
I'm not
right.
the most religious
I
person.
done got
You know
that
what
before
I'm saying?
too. I done got that before too, bro. I
Yeah.
got you.
Let's do a little time out right quick. So I want to say something because I experience it a lot. For some reason in our community, if you're a black person that puts your words together, it's like you got to be a pastor. Like that got to be the trajectory. You can't be anything else besides you a pastor, you a rapper, you a like these are the slots for you. If you can speak and put words together, they assume that.
But
So
see,
that's another reason.
I'm gonna say this, not to cut you off. I'm gonna say this. I think that
No.
I thought about that for a long time, and I think that's because that a preacher was one of the most prominent positions for us if we really think about it.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying? I
it
think
was.
as far as in our community, the preacher was a core part of the community. You know what I'm saying? Because you talk about in times you're not emphasizing psychology and therapy. And honestly, if we being really honest about it, it's not always good dealing with therapy that's not, or a therapist or somebody that don't really understand or can vibe with your culture. You know, so sometimes that kind of plays in it. But I often say all the time, a preacher,
Yeah.
a politician, and a pimp all got the same powers, man.
Okay.
It's
Let's do
about
it
the
like
position.
this. Let's do it like this. Back to the movies, right?
Mm-hmm.
I love the way that you use movies and TV shows to make a real solid point in our life.
Right.
I'm always late because I barely watch TV. I'm always reading. I barely watch TV. So
Right.
I'm always mad late on TV shows.
Mm-hmm.
So I just finished watching The Godfather of Harlem, right?
Okay.
You got Malcolm X.
Right.
You got Malcolm X.
Mm-hmm.
You see how powerful he is.
Right.
You got Adam Clayton Powell, right?
Right.
He's a reverend.
Right.
He's a reverend.
Right.
And you have Bumpy Johnson.
Right.
In the underworld, right?
Yep.
So the more you read history, you realize how interconnected they are, how much the underworld was funding the civil rights movement.
Mm-hmm.
The underworld was making certain things happen. Whenever MLK, another reverend, whenever Reverend MLK went to Chicago, the Blackstones and the Peace Stone Nations and all the gangs in Chicago, they was like, nah, y'all not touching him.
Yep.
Whenever he in the shot, y'all not touching that pastor. Even though we gang members,
Yep.
you see the interconnected
Yep.
in that.
Mm-hmm. Because
So you're right. The pastor, the church, it all go together, man.
It all go together. Because they all have to operate the same. They all got constituents. They got followers. They got people they're responsible for. And if we being honest, a church is set up exactly like a government. You know, if we're being honest, it's set up the exact same way.
The hierarchy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. So, and but yeah, that's a good example in that show. You know, I love that show. Sure. That's my show there. But
y'all haven't seen it, go and check it. If you haven't seen it, go see it.
But you're right. I absolutely love to do the analogies with the movies and the TV shows because I feel like that's a great middle ground, for people to be able to relate to.
It is. On the report, it said highly intelligent mind, right? So let me show the family the importance of having these reports. So from kindergarten into high school graduation, I was not known for being the best academically. I probably had like average grades, right? 2.5, 2.7.
Mm-hmm.
I might touch the honor roll every once in a while, here and there. I didn't perceive myself to be a highly intelligent person most of my childhood, most of my life, right?
Okay.
Once again, back to being in sports and everything. I was a typical young black male, hyper-focused on the physical, the sports, not my mind.
Gotcha.
I didn't respect my own mind, right? Put it like that.
Oh, okay.
I was
Powerful.
never, I was never intellectually lacking. I had an interest problem.
Mm.
So let's tell you about the power of knowledge, right? Because the way the community is now in present day, people make little derogatory remarks about the conscious community, and they call you a hotepper, and they clown some of the prominent guys from the community from the past. They clown those guys now. Some of those guys they clown themselves now. But that community is how I got my interest up in reading, in
Mm-hmm.
research, in scholarship. So when I finally went to college as a grown man, I made like all A's in college.
Right. Yeah.
So it unlocked my intelligence when I saw it put in a different packaging than what the American school system was giving me as a
Right.
kid growing up. When I started
Right.
watching these videos on YouTube, I started going to certain conferences, I started watching these DVDs, I started getting into the pantheon of our people and our culture.
Right. Right.
That
It,
made me step up. When I saw other young black men talking like that,
yeah, it made you
presenting like
interested.
that,
Mm-hmm.
breaking down even in a, I never saw that before.
Right.
And
Right.
so that made me want to step into the highly intelligent mind.
Mm.
That unlocked everything.
Right. Now see, now with your physical talents, it's rooted in division. Like, and not division, we saying mathematically. So as a physical talent, so when you get a hold of something, when somebody gives you something, right? Because you have an abundance when it comes to ideas. Like your creativity and everything, the way you can get ideas, it comes like second nature to you. So you with your expression, it's like anything that you get, right? As long as it comes to you without a condition, you gonna multiply it and divide it back and give it to everybody else. So that's why like a talent in not just a teacher or minister can be in being an accountant or an
Yeah.
economist, because it's a mathematical property. See, I had to have this conversation with my daughter. She'll be 15 this year, and she does not like math. So I had to.
Me either.
She was like,
Me
"I'm
either.
not gonna use this. This is." I said, "Baby, let me teach
Man,
you something, because there's a reason you have to learn math. There's a reason you have to learn arithmetic. There's a reason you have to know the order of operations, because it's just teaching you how to solve problems. You know what I'm saying? So it's just different, man. It's a spiritual aspect to everything. Like when you're talking about multiplication, multiplying things. Why is it an X? Because X marks the spot. So when we're talking about like all of that, the mathematics of
yeah.
life, you feel me?
Kick that. Kick that.
See, they give it
Kick
to
that.
us in this Western way, but it's a very strong spiritual component to math. That's why you got, music is correlated to math. Like building, architecture was a major way of communication for our people. We didn't just build it that way for no reason. You know what I mean? It was a mathematical correlation to it that also went back to your own body, your own spiritual self. Right. The golden Fibonacci. That shows us that how everything is created in creation. To go back to that. And it connects to gematria, like we said before. So it's literally showing you that everything is connected in a mathematical structure. Remember, in the Matrix, the architect said you are simply an anomaly that to an equation that I have yet to figure out. So it's like life is math. Things gotta add up. When it's not adding up in your life, you gotta go back and check your math. Well, baby, you gotta check your math. So that's how I had to, that's how I had to do. But that particular energy with your talent, that abundance, you can duplicate. You can create more and divide it amongst your people.
And like you said, man, my whole life, whenever I've been interested in something and whenever I've learned something, I always end up teaching it.
Right.
Whether that be martial arts. I did 15 years personal training because I was just a fitness enthusiast.
Right.
So that'd be personal training. like I said, I became a college professor, breaking down psychology and whatnot. But that be knowledge. What I'm doing here now, even though I'm not in a formal classroom, I
Right.
come on these platforms and I'm still holding class to a degree. I'm still
Mm-hmm.
Professor P in the manner.
Right.
And, you know, everything else I learn, you know, going forward, I'm always in private or in public teaching it. So that's just a part of how my life has been, you know, unconscious to me until now.
Right. And see, and you know, I mean, and you probably can relate to this. When you teach somebody something else, or when you in a state of teaching, I call it sharing. But when you do that,
Okay.
you're still teaching yourself more. You're still learning it
Yeah.
more. You know what I mean? So
So
it's only giving it to
I'm
you
known for
deeper.
I'm known for having these quotes. I love quotes, right? One of
Hmm.
my favorite quotes ever. They said to teach is to learn twice.
Oh yeah,
I love that quote.
yeah,
To teach is to learn twice. I'm always loving that, man.
yeah.
Because
And you
like
learn
you just
something
said,
new. You
the
learn
more
something
you
every
do,
time. You
because
learn more.
one of my guys here in the room right now, right? But like me being 40 years old, I'm kind of sort of, it's kind of weird to me. I feel like I'm 25.
Hmm.
In most rooms I go into, I might be the OG in the room.
Mm.
So the young guys asking me things to revisit, I haven't even read in 20 years, 15 years about
Right,
like 5% Nation or the Nation of Islam
right,
or
right, right,
other schools of thought. And now I'm revisiting these things with
right.
my 40-year-old
With your
mind.
40-year-old mind.
And so you got to kind of work with some things again. Like, wait a minute, do I really line up with certain things, or
Yep,
do I feel different about certain things, or you're going revisiting again,
yep,
and it's a brand new journey again,
yep. Because
right?
some things your mind not gonna be ready for until you get to a certain age or until you reach a certain
Yeah,
experience, and then your mind
yeah,
can take that. And then you may come back to it. And you be like, now looking at it now, with the mind I
right.
have now, So yeah, I
Yeah,
totally
yeah,
understand. I got you.
yeah, yeah. I'm gonna go to the spiritual real quick, right?
Okay.
The
Mhm.
spiritual karma, right?
Mhm.
So it said lessons in death to life,
Mhm.
physically and spiritually, right?
Mhm.
Inability to achieve balance in life experiences. You have a tendency to become dependent because you do not have a structure to understand spiritual truth, and you have no resiliency to cope with spiritual unknowns. Spiritual unknowns, right?
Mhm.
So once again, we doing it. In the next 4 or 5 days, it's gonna be whenever my grandmother passed, right?
Mm.
Before 4 years, my grandmother passed, and so dealing with grief, dealing with the death concept.
Mm.
My first time really facing the death concept was my grandmother passing. I've been blessed so far not to have anybody real direct to me transition.
Mm.
So that's a whole different thing to deal with. And I don't care how analytical you are. I don't care how intelligent you are. I don't care what you read and study or whatever. To understand spiritual things, it's a whole different universe. And I noticed a thing
Yes.
when I was studying people, I noticed that some of the high intelligent guys struggle with the concept of love and the concept of spirituality.
Mm.
Because a lot of us, we want to have something that's tangible.
Yeah.
Like you said, mathematically, this equals this. But
Right.
love and spirituality is totally abstract. It's totally, you can't grab it. You can't, so you
Right.
always wrestling with it, right? So I
Right.
was telling somebody a couple of days ago, I heard that whenever MLK was about to graduate theology school to be Dr. Martin Luther King,
Mhm.
in his thesis, his dissertation, he was still struggling with the God concept.
Mhm.
People don't realize that. He
Mhm.
wasn't just gun-ho,
Be a
sold out
preacher.
for Jesus,
Right. He
whatever.
really wanted
He
to
was
help his
still
people.
dealing with
Yeah.
he was still dealing with the God concept at that point. After all those years of his daddy being the pastor, him being raised up under a pastor, him being groomed to be the
Be a
next
pastor.
man up,
Mhm.
he was still in private struggling with that. So I can
Mm.
definitely relate to having a hard time dealing with certain concepts,
Yeah.
things
That's
like death.
yeah. That's interesting that you say that. Okay. Your spiritual karma is connected to the number 11, right? And it's why I just did my last video, my last breakdown before this last one. I Stranger Things.
And the 11, the door, right? 11?
Yes, yes. And see, I did that Stranger Things. You know, her name's 11. You know, so, and they call her L for short. You know, L it means God. But the thing about 11 is it's a portal. It's a portal energy. So it's like, have you ever seen that show?
No, I haven't seen it yet. Once again, I got to catch up. I got to
Okay.
catch up.
Okay. So,
All my friends raving about it. I have not
okay.
seen it yet. But after this, tonight, I'm about to be binging Stranger Things.
Okay. So the reason why I say that is because, all right, she has a connection. It's like she opened up a portal to a whole nother world, to an underworld. It's called an upside down world where, you know, a whole lot of bad things or what have you. And the way she tapped into her power was through death. So like she struggled. She could not use her powers like everybody else. She was like the weakest one. They all had numbers and she was 11. Until she finally got her power, but it took a whole lot of death and destruction. And it finally came out of her. So it's like for this it's like death in life, physically and spiritually. Now it is spiritual karma. So when we talk about death spiritually, you probably experienced ego death or went through a spiritual death or spiritual rebirth. And that's still in a sense of losing like parts of yourself dying or grieving grieving yourself, knowing that certain parts of you are no longer, you know, you're no longer that person no more. You know what I'm saying? So in a sense, when we saying spiritually, you've gone through some things to make you put your ego down and realize it's something way greater than this that's out there.
Yeah.
And you know, you've been able to and it's
You're
very absorbent too. So that's the thing about this energy. It's very absorbent. That's why it can be hard for you to learn. And it's because you naturally can take on things from other people. So as you get older, it's important that you clear what you've taken on from people that's not healthy for you, that don't serve you. You know what I'm saying? Because especially as a child, when you was a child, people with 11 in their reports as a child in the karma, a lot of times they might take it on for the whole family. They might be the only person in the whole house that can't ignore something that's emotionally going on or something like that. You know what I'm saying? And so like you say, when some people who struggle having a high IQ, they can have, or they might have a high IQ, they may struggle with the love. And that's because in society, most of the time it's going to push your IQ and not your EQ. So most of the time we may be learning for our IQ, but we not, you know, the emotional, you know what I'm saying? As far as what we know, emotional intelligence, that's more lacking. And so that goes back to people just being more self-reflective, being more self-aware, which is what the report is really about. It's just to help you, you know, as you reflect on certain things of yourself, you know, to realize that it's a journey, it's an experience, you know, but it doesn't have to define you. You know what I mean? It just, you know, it's just something that you can build from, that you can grow from, you know.
Before we leave, I want to mention something, right? So inside my physical karma, and in different parts of my report, it came up more than one time, about the kidneys and cleansing the kidneys and blocking the kidney, unblocking the kidneys. So I want the people to realize, besides getting the report, whenever you read your report and you correspond with the sister after the fact, she does give you advice and suggestions and tips, right? So a part of my suggestions she gave me when it comes to unblocking the kidneys and things of that nature was connecting back to nature, to be, you know, in the gardening. We talk about grounding, you know, with your bare feet in the ground. Talk about hugging a tree. We talk about these things connecting back to nature. And I told her it was so crazy because my grandfather is a master with the gardening. His thumb is fluorescent. Forget a green thumb. His thumb is like glowing. Like anything my grandfather has grown in my life is the biggest I've ever seen. Pumpkins, okra, cabbage, apples. Japanese plums. I mean, you name something he can grow, is bigger than anything at Walmart or wherever, right? And then people will bring my grandfather broken plants. They'll bring my grandfather plants that seem like man, throw that away.
Right.
And he'll
he would bring it
be
back
able
to
to
life.
shake it back. Yes.
That's powerful. And see, that sounds like.
But let me tell you something I learned during the pandemic, right? So COVID-19 first hit, we all trying to get our elderberry, we trying to get our cinnamon sticks and trying to make our little, our little teas, right? So I'm on the phone with my mama on speakerphone, and I'm telling her what I was doing, and my grandfather heard it in the background, and he told me that my great-great-great-grandfather on a slave plantation, he was the treator. That's what they call him.
Oh.
He was he was the healer.
Yeah.
I never knew that was in my family. I never knew that was our.
That's what I was gonna tell you. That's exactly what I was about to say. That's probably in your bloodline. See, that's probably magic in your bloodline. And see, when I say that, I mean, like, there's probably been something just spirited, literally just in a part of your DNA. And you know, probably just got to come back full circle. You know, your thumb probably could be just as green, you know, if you was to get as active in it. And see, that's why I encourage people when I tell people, like, you should do your genealogy. You know what I'm saying? You should look into your genealogy, because when you, like how you just said about your sometimes when you look into your family, you can see what is in your family. You can literally see, like, dang, so they did this and they did this and they did this and they did it too. So it's naturally in your bloodline to do. And when it's in your blood to do, then that's like that's your magic. That's what you know what to do.
This is the power of communicating with our family members, with our elders, with our youth, right? The minute I learned that lesson, I thought to myself, what if I heard that in junior high? I might have would have aspired to be in the medical field. Right. I might have would have aspired to be a doctor or something like that. Just knowing that, hold on, that's in our family, that's in our bloodline. Right. My family is a whole line of preachers, education all through the bloodline, education and helping the community, helping people. That's what we've done for generations, right? So it just took me to embrace that and not be resistant to it. Yes. Not run from it. I spent so many years running from it, right?
Yep, that's the
truth.
So
many years.
Finding your bloodline. Well, it's hard. Yes, the DNA itself is tricky. Because for one, they have told us and they've come out and said they sell this data. So, there's that. Yeah. But these websites, they do have the records. You can trace the records. What I mean by the records, that's the birth records, the death records, the census, even if you get before the census. Military, marriage.
Military records, marriage.
Yep, and what you do, you trace them. You get the names and you be like, okay, so her mom and her mom and dad, and you just go as far back as you can.
I'm not doing a DNA commercial. I ain't getting paid for nothing like that. But like, I mentioned my grandmother passing 4 or 5 years ago, right? Before she passed, unbeknownst to us, my little cousin did my grandmother's DNA and my grandfather.
Okay.
So after she passed, in the middle of grieving, my little cousin come to me and said, Sean, guess what? I did her DNA and gave me the login and the password, and I was inside of her DNA report for months, contacting distant cousins, contacting people. Like, I really implore everybody to do it, but not just do yours. Try to get your siblings to do it. Try to get your parents to do it. Try to get your cousin, because the more people that do it, that tree
it'll grow,
come together.
And see, that's tighter. What happened. That's what happened.
So
with mine.
My mom just did hers. My mom just did. So for the past few months, my mom is adding it to the family tree on the thing.
Oh, okay.
So I'm seeing people I ain't never seen before in our family. Like, who's that?
Yeah.
Who's this person? Who's that person?
Right.
And like you saying, you get access to the. See, once again, being black people, when you see these churches getting burned down, and in the old days, them burning down churches,
they have
some of our major birth records at church. Our birth records, baptism records, marriage records, all that stuff was at church. So you burn down the church, you done lost a lot. You lost a ton.
Yep,
you know what I'm saying? So once again, I'm not being a commercial, and everybody got their own apprehension, but I'm personally advising find something you feel comfortable with and do it.
Yeah,
Definitely
absolutely.
do it. I would.
Yeah, absolutely. Cause see, for me, I was fortunate enough that on one of my bloodlines, somebody did the work. I was just fortunate
Oh,
enough
okay.
that I
Okay.
came across it, and I was like, whoa, like it was massive. And I was like, it does something for you spiritually. It really does. And like I said,
It does.
it'll
It
tell you a
does.
story. It'll tell you a story about your family. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
my uncle breeds horses and dogs. So his father did that, and his father's father did that. And I even looked, and I looked up, and I could find stories about my family, like from slave stories. I had no idea knowing this information was out there. And then I come to find
Yeah.
out that some of that lineage came from a stud farm. So they did a lot of work at a stud farm, which is basically what they did. They breeded horses and dogs. So I'm like, okay, no wonder they know how to do this. This is really something that's bloodline for 100 years or
See,
so, maybe even more.
okay. My homegirl in the room, she in the psychology and the therapy as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
We speak of the term epigenetics most time in a negative sense.
Right,
Whenever
we do.
epigenetics is talked about, we're talking about slavery and trauma and all that, right?
Yeah.
What about the positive things that's passed through DNA?
Well, I
What
think
about
that's
the positive
because
attributes? You know what I'm saying? We gotta talk about that.
I think that's because the way that like society has structured the like as far as with epigenetics that there are certain characteristics or qualities that's more favored. You know, and as black people, it's unfortunate, you know, that we are always in a constant position of feeling like, you know, we have to
We
fight
don't
so
trust.
hard, and we don't trust. Right? We
We don't trust.
absolutely
We
don't
don't trust.
trust because it's like, how do I know to trust this? You know, because it's a big thing right now. You got a lot of people that's talking about their native history, their indigenous history. Like that's becoming a major talking point. But then you have people that's coming in being divisive about the whole thing. So you just gotta be careful and just discern and always stay true to what
Yep.
you doing, what you do for, and you know.
Right. Right.
Yep.
And I want to say before we leave, we most times naturally have a real small scope of our family, like location.
Yep.
But whenever I did my DNA and saw the matches around the globe, and it showed you the whole world, all the countries and all the continents,
Mm-hmm.
and you seeing them matches in all these places, it's like I never thought I would have had a connection way over here or way over here, or
Right.
I only saw my last name. I have a very unique last name. My name, period, is unique. But
But
to see
see,
my name in that many
yeah,
places, it's
yeah,
like, what?
yeah. Well, see,
It just
You
it
know you
opens
from
up.
Louisiana now, so you know Louisiana, and that's where history come in at. You know, Louisiana got a different history than say somebody that like me that's from North Carolina. You know what I'm saying? Because North Carolina is one of the original 13 colonies, versus Louisiana was not. So there was a longer period of time where you know what I'm saying where native peoples in the Louisiana area, or when you had the Sephardic Jews, or when you know what I'm saying, and that's something they don't teach
Yeah.
us. So, you know, when you get
No.
into it, it's a
No.
real, you know
See,
what? It's an adventure. It's a real adventure. You know what I'm saying? So,
yeah,
and to be willing to go on an adventure takes courage. You know what I'm saying? It
it
takes
does.
courage to venture into new information, to venture into a new way of thinking, a new way of being. You know what I'm saying? So anybody who's trying to make any type of changes in their life, I commend you because it takes courage. You know what I'm saying? Because it's so much easier to just stay right where you at. But it takes courage just to go in a different direction, to go somewhere you never been before, to look somewhere you never looked before. You know, peace. Somebody from North Carolina in the comment section. Yep, I'm born and raised North Carolina. So,
Yeah.
you
All
know,
right. So that's our time. I don't want to keep it too long, but
right?
I just want to give real props for you and your husband and everything y'all doing. And definitely, I'll be a main advocate, man. Go and get that energy report. Holler at my sister. She's easy to contact, easy with the information. Definitely give you some good, usable suggestions and tips. And she's incredibly sick with it, as you can tell from the interview. She got knowledge on top of the head, man. So holler at my sister, and yeah, man.
I
Showing
appreciate
peace
you.
all day.
I appreciate the interview. Thank you so much for the support. My husband told me to let you know. He said, thank you, man. You always been a solid supporter. So, you know, I
Good.
appreciate you.
Good.
And, you know, we're going to definitely do this again. We're gonna do another
For
interview
sure.
sometime soon.
For
So,
sure.
thanks,
So,
man. I
all right.
appreciate you. All
Thank
right.
y'all very much.
Peace, everybody.
Peace.